Hello and welcome everyone to Season 2 of Soul and Science, where psychology meets ancient wisdom. Our theme this month for Season 2 is From Victim to Victor, the podcast where we explore the transformative journey of healing and personal empowerment. Through inspiring stories, insights, and practical tools, we'll guide you from a place of victimhood to victory, from unconscious patterns to conscious, empowered living. Whether you're navigating trauma, striving for personal growth, or simply looking for a deeper understanding of how to reclaim your power, this will give you an insight and a few tools to help you on that journey. Join me, Nyana, a psychotherapist, and Ardaas, a spiritual teacher, as we dive deeper into the connection of mind, body, soul, and its incredible ability to heal and rise and elevate. While this may not be a therapy session, and we invite you to seek professional advice where needed, this may allow you to get closer to understanding where you have been stuck in the past and how you can be reborn to be victorious. Hi, and welcome everyone to our season 2 finale episode on the true self, which is living with compassion, freedom, and abundance. With us, we have Ardaas ji, our spiritual teacher, guide, and our co speaker today, and has been with us since season 1 and 2. So, welcome, Ardaas ji.
Thank you, everyone, for watching, listening. Thank you, Nyana, for organizing it. Satnam, everyone.
So we are on the final step of what it is to be from victim to victor, which has been our conversation in season 2. What is it to live from the true self? What is the true self? We've been talking about it a lot along the way over the many conversations, and it's come up in different shapes and forms. But today we're going to really spend time in understanding what is it once we heal this narrative, the story, the belief that I'm a victim, and we start peeling away those layers. Who do we become? What do we see? And most of us want to hold on to that story because we don't know who we are without this story. And a big part of the therapeutic journey, or Ardaas can talk about the yogic journey, is to connect to that part of us that is beyond the story, the part of us that was never touched by the trauma, the part of us that continues to remain our core essence of who we are, whether we call it the true self, the soul, or any other word that may suit divine self. Other people, different forms use different terminology. For today, we're going to talk about the true self because that's how compassionate inquiry or the world of psychology talks about that essence of who we are at the core, which is compassionate, free, abundant, without these layers of illusions of stories that we have put around ourselves, the chains, as we call it, of the victim. And when we release these chains and unshackle ourselves from these chains, we become victorious. But what does victory look like? Any thoughts, Ardaas ji, on what I just shared about what this true self is, and what does it look like in terms of ancient wisdom or yogic sciences?
Right. Oh, thank you for the introduction, Nyana. And I was thinking, as you were speaking, that before even talking about what does it look like, maybe we could talk about what does it not look like. So um, after you go through the whole process, and well, if you are here in episode 10, you've probably been listening to the others. So first acknowledge that, and thank you for honoring us with your presence and your listening and your active engagement with what we are saying. And hopefully you have been doing the exercises that we suggested and you have been applying this to your life. Now, as you have gone through all this, what does it not look like? It doesn't look like somebody who is free from emotion, free from being upset, free from getting angry, or free from experiencing negative thoughts or negative emotions. So what I mean by this is that even though you may go through the process and you may heal a difficult, sensitive history within yourself, that doesn't mean that suddenly you're going to stop feeling angry, stop feeling all those emotions that have been present in your life for so long. And for a number of reasons. First of all, even if you go through the whole healing process of the trauma, um, first of all, we are humans and we all experience these things. Even if we don't have a traumatic thing in our memory, even if we never had any trauma or PTSD, we all experience these emotions. And so, even after you go through the healing process, you're going to still get in contact with these emotions. And the challenge could be that when an emotion comes back, you may feel it like, oh my goodness, the trauma is back, or the history is back, or my past is catching up to me, or whatever. And it's good that we should um, acknowledge the emotions for what they are. They are there and they are telling me something, and there is some meaning behind the emotions, and it's often useful, and sometimes they are not, but it's okay. I have emotions. In a way, what we say in yoga is that being a yogi doesn't mean that we don't have emotions. That sometimes we can have this image of yogis, this meditating person who doesn't have negative thoughts, doesn't have any negative emotion, they are above these things. And actually, that's a very romantic but idealized version. That's actually not true. And it's just that you train yourself to being able to process an emotion when it comes, knowing when to express it, when to contain it, and notice the thoughts when they come, and knowing how to release it, how to empower yourself from whatever thought is coming, but not being caught up in the trap. So remember that that was one of the meanings of the word mantra. Yeah, it protects you. It protects your mind. So you can learn to protect yourself from falling in the trap, not from falling in the trap of having negative emotions, but from going down into a hole with the negative emotions, or getting burned into an anger with the negative emotion. Rather, you feel it, you process it, you either express it or you contain it and you let it go. And you don't go back to the idea that you are again within the trauma. So that's one thing. Because we are humans, we're going to continue having negative thoughts and emotions, and that's part of the makeup of being a person and having a human brain. It's just, as we are growing in maturity, we are going to be more in command of what's happening within the emotional and the psychological self, and we're going to make it more into service for us. So that's one thing. The other thing is there is an inertia. And just like a car is going in a straight line at 100 miles an hour, and then there is a bend, a strong bend to the side, and suddenly the car wants to go straight, so you feel like you are going into the side of the car against the the window, right? That feeling, that happens also within us. So if we have been going in an inertia linked to some trauma, and you felt like a victim for all these, who knows, 20 years, who knows, whatever, and you've been going in that direction. And now you are changing your identity, changing your beliefs, changing your emotions, changing the understanding of who you are and your identity. And that's changing your reality, the experience of your reality in your life. And that's like making a U-turn, like a big turn, not a U-turn, like a big turn, right? And the road is bending for you, and you are moving from a faithful existence going towards your fate to a destiny, right? To channel your best self, and that's connected to the true self, right? And you're moving towards your destiny. But as you are bending, yeah, as you are bending towards this new identification with this true self, you're going to experience that pull in the other direction. So understand that any change in direction, especially change in direction of your identity, there's going to be things that are coming up. So, for example, you may have gone through the process of forgiving yourself or forgiving whoever was involved in the incident that caused the trauma. And after you even go through the whole process psychologically, emotionally, even physically, there may still be remnants of it. And so this is the feeling maybe start arising. Sometimes somebody will say a word that used to trigger you, maybe will not trigger you, but maybe you will feel the tendency, you will feel the pull towards it in that direction, towards the trigger. And you just have to become very aware, very calm, very neutral, notice that, and not let yourself go with that feeling, and just stay calm, stay quiet. Maybe do one of these tips that we have been suggesting during the last episodes. Come back to those tips and neutralize whatever is happening. But understand that that inertia is natural. Even if you have forgiven the person who was involved in the incident, if you see them again, there may be some biological symptoms of stress and maybe trauma triggering. And you have to, again, realize, okay, I've done my process, I've done my healing, I've gone through everything. Sometimes it just takes time. Some things just take time. It's not a sign that you haven't healed enough, or you haven't forgiven enough, or you haven't done the process well enough and you still have to work more at it. Sometimes it's like, okay, I've done what I had to do. I've gone through the process. I consider it closed. That's it. All right, right now I'm feeling this emotion, I'm feeling this thought, and it's connected to this person or connected to this situation, but that's okay. They may take time. Some things may just take time, and it doesn't mean we have to go back and go through the whole process and punishing ourselves. In like going through therapy can be like punishing ourselves as well. So you don't have to go through all that again. Just accept that you went through it and you're on the other side, and there may be some remnants of it. Sometimes in yoga we say it can be for 7 years. It stays in your aura, in your body, and the cells have to renew themselves, and also the energetic field around us has to renew itself. Sometimes it can take 7 years of after you've completed the whole process. So it's fine. So whatever is coming, um, maybe I can give already my first tip for today. Maybe there will be more tips, but it's coming right now. So something that we can, like a little mantra that we can tell ourselves, it's fine. It's fine. Whatever comes up, whatever is happening, even if we are getting triggered, it's fine. If there is a negative emotion, it's fine. If there is a negative thought, it's fine. If I have the tension in my belly when I meet that person, it's fine. And we can just tell ourselves that it's fine, and breathe, and just neutralize whatever is happening, which is different from an it's fine that is actually lying to ourselves and negating what is happening within us. I'm assuming that we have gone through the whole process and we have been very clear, um, assessing ourselves, assessing what we have done, and we reach a good, stable place, and more in contact with the true self. So that's how to identify what is not, yeah, being with the true self. Maybe Nyana, you can talk a bit more about that as well.
What is not the true self, or what is now the true
Both,
self?
both things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that you said, that the most important being that most of us think that emotions are bad, and that we need to cut off from them, and that's when we'll be in the Zen mode, and that's when we have arrived, and that's what nirvana, enlightenment looks like. That's very different from a different understanding, and not maybe necessarily a complete understanding. And that the role of emotions is what makes us actually alive, and it's necessary to have these emotions. Example, fear tells us that we're in danger, we need to take care of ourselves. Anger says that, look, something's not okay, there's some injustice, I need to stand up and do something about it. Um, and it's really, really important that um, we recognize that emotions are here, they're speaking to us. It's a way to navigate whatever we are experiencing in the moment, and to bring our awareness and attention to it, not get attached to it, not become it, but notice that it is present. There is something in us that is calling our attention to something, and recognizing it and honoring it. If it is to sit with it, recognize it. Is it something that I've already processed? And this is something that people ask you, but I thought I had processed it. Why is it coming back again? And the only thing that I read is that as you become more free from this experience, and you become more aware, you're able to possibly go deeper into something. And so the more your consciousness rises, the more you're able to meet the same thing. Example, if it were an abuse, you may be able to meet it in a very different way, from a higher level of non-attachment or consciousness and awareness that releases you further, than you had probably earlier on. And that really helped me actually understand why some of the things kept coming back for me, or they come back for clients and then they get frustrated and they think I'm never going to heal. And that's not necessarily the case, right? It is to look at it from the perspective that, okay, now I have come to a certain level of healing and consciousness which allows me to be further with something that still needs to be seen, which I couldn't see before or couldn't hold space for before. And not getting frustrated along the journey, because that can be something that we say that I can never heal, or I'll never be this true self. I will always be broken. I will always. And that's when you have to recognize that those are your trauma speaking, or that's because all of us have this essence. We all have the true self. And the fact that your body's even showing up some of these things is because it has more self-trust. It is beginning to trust itself more, which is just part of the true self. It says that I have more courage to see what I need to see. I have more courage to hold my pain. I have more courage to take responsibility and say I can take care of myself and heal myself. There is a lot more growth that is happening along the way with self-trust that's allowing me to actually bring some of the deeper things out as well. So not necessarily looking at it as, oh, that's a terrible thing, but beginning to realize that it is happening because you're in a better place. That means your true self is becoming stronger, which is that part of you that can trust you to take care of you, trust you to look after you, trust you to tap into areas that you weren't possibly willing to see before. That is becoming stronger. So that is, I think, what I would add here in terms of recognizing that just because it's coming back, it doesn't mean that I need to give up and it's not working. It's coming back because there is a place of you that's becoming stronger, and this part is possibly your true self. Any thoughts on that, Ardaas ji? Or I saw you nodding, so or I will continue with this reconnection part.
Go on. I think you're doing really well on that front. Yeah, I can. I was nodding because I agree with what you're saying. So yeah, happy with it.
So this reconnection to the true self means that there is a part of me that now is able to see myself with more neutrality, with more compassion, with more trust, with more understanding, and with the freedom to choose how I choose to respond to something. So there's choice that's come in, which is taken away when there is trauma, or when I'm attached to the wound, or I'm attached to that identity. So now that is the true self is separating and is able to see that I'm not what happened to me. I am not this identity of being broken or abused or a victim or not good enough. I'm able to see that I'm separate from this identity. And that is something that you will hear also be termed as a witness, which is very neutral, which is something we talked about earlier, that how do I know? It's also the part of you that knows that I'm none of these things. There's a part of you that really loves you and is showing up to tell you that you're worthy and to remind you of that. And the stronger, the more we heal, the stronger this true self becomes. The more there is in psychology called an unblending that occurs. So the true self may have gone into hiding, or may have gotten suppressed along the way. But as you're healing, you're allowing and giving it permission to be seen and saying that there's a freedom of the soul to exist. There's the freedom of that essence to exist, which may have been unsafe earlier on and gone into hiding. But now it's kind of wholly coming back into its authority, into the driving seat, and it starts living. You start living more in touch with your intuition, for example. And we talked about it last time. How do I know if it's my ego or my intuition? We talked about this voice that is neutral. It doesn't have a charge. The false self or the trauma self will always have like a sort of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, why did this happen? Whereas a neutral self, as Ardaas talked about, it's fine. But it's not coming from a place of submissive, poor me. It's coming from a space of neutrality and strength and courage and compassion. And that's allowing us to live more, if I would say, away from the mind, away from the story, into the heart, into our purpose, into our destiny, and saying, okay, that's something that I lived and I experienced, but it's not who I am. And you're getting in touch with this part of you that's truly who you are, the part of you that's here to live out a purpose, destiny, and you start really listening to that voice and that part to say, okay, fine, how do I walk this path of destiny? And doesn't mean that the wounding may have completely gone. It may still be there. It may show up because it has its fears of being, present, and it didn't have safety. And then this part actually, which is the true self, recognizes that it is safe today, that it's no longer 3 years old or 5 years old, or is not still in that trauma, and that I can carry along this worry, or tap in and say, is this even real? Is this true? Am I really in danger in this moment? And there could be. And then I say, okay, fine. Maybe I will step back and say, okay, I'm gonna reevaluate, and I'll have that energy or that ability to discern, which is not an impulsive response. Mm, and that really is the nature of the true self. It's this wholeness, this abundance. It's also able to have like this almost a holistic view of something, and is able to look at it from different perspectives, or like an eagle from like a higher viewpoint, to say, okay, fine, am I able to see all the pieces, versus a very narrow perspective of, is this is what I need right now to feel better, versus if I'm going to do this now, what are the consequences, and I'm willing to stand by those consequences because they are mine as well. And that becomes the nature of the way in which you interact with yourself in the reconnection of this true self, which is a big part of the journey of healing. And that opens up, if I can ask you, Ardaas ji, discuss how this compassion, this trust becomes the foundation of living an abundant, authentic life. What are your views on it, or anything else that you want to add to what I'm saying about what is this true self and how it um, leads to this life of purpose and destiny from a yogic perspective?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's say we've been through the process and we've been healing this trauma that we experienced. And as we are healing that aspect of ourselves that is not ourselves, like you were saying, well, these thoughts are coming from an area that is not ourselves. But as we are healing those inner reactions that are coming out of that place, we are becoming in contact. We are coming in contact with an inner part of ourselves that is more true, that is more meaningful, and that you feel it. It's hard to describe, but it's a feeling that you get that is true, that is authentic. And and I think there is a moment when you have to actually choose to to nourish that part of yourself, the true part of yourself. So we have invested a lot of energy in the trauma, even when we are healing it, even when we are doing the process of therapy, that's a lot of energy that it takes from us. And at some point you must, because healing, you could heal to the infinity. I mean, in yoga we said, if you want to heal, what are you going to heal? Because there's always mm, roots that come from before. And if we talk everything is karma, and we know karma comes from another life, so there's always things to heal. So at some point you have to say, well, enough. I've done enough healing on that. And all that energy that you were putting into the therapy aspect, when you feel that is complete, and especially if you're going with a professional, that the professional agrees with you that you've completed a part of the journey on healing, then now, okay, all this energy that I have, now you reclaim it back. So you were at first feeling like a victim. Now you stop identifying with the victim. Now you are identifying with the one who is healing the wound, right? The trauma, and you invest in all this energy into the therapy. And now you are claiming it back. And you can take all this energy and putting it into your true self. So at the moment that you start sensing that part of yourself that feels authentic, that feels real, that feels true, you can start investing energy. And the more you invest into it through being aware of it, of coming from that place when you speak, when you interact with others, on associating with that, identifying with that. And, in yoga, we would say meditating, right? Meditation is a way to connect to that part. That means investing your energy, because meditation takes time, and time is energy, right? You have to invest in energy and time into that, dedicating, I don't know, half an hour every day to connect to that part of yourself, or even if it's 10 minutes, right, to connect to that part. So now you are nourishing it. And the more you nourish that, I said that's true, it's linked to truth and authenticity, but the more you are connecting to it, a number of blessings are going to arise. Some are going to be manifesting within you, and some are going to come from the outside. From within you, you're going to feel that some of your qualities are going to be refined. For example, naivety can become innocence. Yeah, this being small that people would take advantage of you, you can still remain that smallness, but becomes humble. Not somebody that everybody is going to squeeze, but you become humble. And there is some qualities that are refined within you, and you develop these virtues. And at the same time, as you are developing these virtues within you, these blessings are starting to come down. And from the yogic perspective, some of the ones, the words you were mentioning, Nyana, those are blessings that come like compassion, yeah, like peace, like mercy, feeling blessed, feeling grace, yeah, grace into your life. All the things are coming from the outside. And this inner voice within you that is true and is aligned with intuition, yeah, it speaks through intuition. It's not exactly the intuition, yeah, but speaks through that. That intuition is gonna allow you, for example, to perceive an option that you didn't see before. Yeah, we talked about intuition perceiving something that is not easily perceived or not seen, see the unseen. So you suddenly see an option that you didn't see before, and as you go towards that, it's like a blessing that was waiting for you, and the opportunities come, and then you're receiving this blessing from something from the outside. And so the more you are investing the energy within yourself, these qualities are transforming, these qualities within you are becoming virtues, and these blessings are coming down. One very important that I would like to emphasize is peace. It starts with certain contentment, and this I am fine is part of it. Yeah, to tell yourself I'm fine is like I am content. It's a beautiful word in Sanskrit, santosha. Yeah, this santosha, I like this word because sant sounds like saint. Yeah, so there's a
Saint.
saintly aspect to that. And tosha, sh, the sh sound is a sound that produces silence. In fact, we do
Mhm.
it to babies, to silence. Yeah, shh. So when we are, you know, tuning into that saintly quality of contentment through the I am fine, the silence comes into your mind, into your emotions, and that's peace. Because we normally, when we think we are not in peace, when we feel we are not in peace, it's the thoughts and the feelings that are not bringing us out of the peace. So peace is not um, something that we should arrive at. But is if you take away many of the other things that are right now, then peace is there. So and it descends like in the Muslims say, no, may peace descend upon you. There is this. I'm not sure I'm saying it right, but peace comes down onto you. So as you develop this contentment within, and you're satisfied, it's fine, whatever is happening, it's fine, and you neutralize and you don't react to whatever the things around you are trying to trigger you, because a lot of the world around us tries to trigger us. And also, if we have people in our life that are used to us getting triggered, sometimes they look for it. They are throwing the hook to see if they catch you. And you're like, I see what you're doing, but okay, thank you for testing me. I'm not gonna bite this time, right? And you can not bite it, you don't get triggered, and then you come into this place that you are nurturing. And then the moment that that trigger doesn't happen, what happens? Well, the thoughts and emotions that were supposed to come up with the trauma, they don't. And so you enter into this peaceful state. There's silence. And that's a lovely, lovely place. And actually, I describe it a little bit sometimes like diving in an ocean, like you're diving under the water and you're just floating like a big I can feel it like a big whale. I don't know why, but like a whale. And you're just floating in that ocean of peace, santosh, yeah, and contentment. And then there's little fishes that fly by, passing by, and they can be like thoughts. Like a thought comes, oh, look, a thought. Okay. Bye-bye thought, right? An emotion comes. Oh, an emotion. Hello, hello, emotion. Bye-bye, emotion. And you stay there floating in this peaceful state. And actually, within that peace, within that peaceful immersion, yeah, under the water, that there is a spark of joy, and there is in this. If you go into that place, which is from the place from which consciousness arises, because consciousness is light. Sometimes we talk about getting enlightened. You may have heard this expression, enlightened. What do you mean by light? Well, it's the light of consciousness, right? So a little spark gives light. So if you go down to the spark of consciousness, you go down within the peace into this little spark, then there is a joy and an ecstasy that, it is described like the highest you can feel, the highest feeling of joy and bliss and yeah, ecstasies. Yeah, we call it anand, yeah, in yogic terms. So there is this peaceful state, and there is a spark of joy that can become like a flame of joy. And so that's little things that can give you clues that you are connecting to the true self. So let me recapitulate, recapture these things. So it's like a connection to some authentic self, something that feels true, something also I didn't mention that is not transitory. So it's stable. It's not something that, I mean, you may not be connected to it, but as you connect, you realize it was always there. You were just distracted with thoughts and emotions and other things, the unholy alliance. But as you connect, it feels true, it feels authentic, it feels natural. You will feel that some of your qualities get refined, and you will be able to feel at peace with it, first content, then at peace, and within the peace there is a spark of joy, and that's a good sign that you are connecting to the true self. So that's from the yogic perspective. How about from the psychological side? What is the true self for you?
Oh my God, the way you make it sound is like just was melt in the mouth pastry of like divine, like you're eating this divine pastry, right? In
Yes.
psychology, it's fairly simple, actually. While the experience is that of freedom, I would say, in a session for a client, where suddenly you recognize that when we take the client towards the true self and you're able to tap into that experience that's neutral, that's able to look beyond the thoughts and the emotions and the stories, is the things that I've heard is I feel light in the body, I feel free, I feel like I'm feeling love, expansiveness, and there is no thought, there is no there's just love for all, there is a connection to all, there is a sense of just an openness that occurs. And when we ask them to speak from that space, it's a very different sense of who they are in terms of from this space, who would XYZ be? And then suddenly they're like, oh, I'm compassionate, I'm courageous, the exact things that they would have otherwise come back and in the beginning of the session saying, um, emotions are weakness, for example, and I'm weak and I'm a weakling. And then suddenly there is, when you go through the stages of the unshackling and the unlayering during the process, there comes a space where they're able to feel that mostly in their heart center. And from this, they're able to see this white light. And they talk about this white light. And they're just in bliss. They're able to just experience that expansive state. And then you notice a shift in their body language, the way the body moves, the way their tone of voice is. It shifts into a more calm, contained, compassionate towards self, and the ability to look at life from a larger perspective. It's almost like their vision has expanded to something way bigger than they could have possibly imagined their limited self to be at the beginning of the session. The more we do that in every session, the more we're able to connect back. And the intention at the end of every session, I think we can talk about it a little bit more because it will be very helpful for the next, is nourishing that connection and not just experiencing it in, because to hone it, to reach out to it, to come into it when you need it, right? It's not just feeling it in session and knowing that part of me exists, but
Right.
how do I tap into that part
Mm,
or live more from that part every single day, or that
mm,
aspect of me which I can recognize, I can see I'm getting triggered, but in that moment, I'm making that choice to come back into my heart center and operate from my true self. And that takes time and that takes practice. And that's not just going to happen without doing something to nourish, grow, strengthen, connect, reconnect, and everyday connect. Like you had spoken, even if it's 10 minutes every single day, to that part of yourself that can experience that expansiveness. And we invite clients to kind of do something like that every single day so that you're able to share what you need from a space of authenticity and abundance, and to recognize that when you're not experiencing that, that's not your true self. And so then there's a very clear division between who I am and who I am not. And then the choice of where do I want to live from in every moment. Do I want to live from the trauma self, which will continue to possibly present in different shapes or form, or new things may show up, and yet I have the choice and the only space we actually have control. Otherwise, we're trying to control everything around us so that we don't feel what we need to feel. Here, we're okay to feel without controlling the outside. Here, we are able to hold space for whatever we're experiencing, taking responsibility for that, and still choosing to respond from a heart-centered space. Today, the world is calling it heart coherence. Have you heard about it, Ardaas
Heart,
ji?
heart coherence.
Yeah.
I had not heard of it, but
So
thank you.
there is a lot of institutes and a lot of people who are now talking about something called heart coherence, where your mind and heart are balanced in the same wave and rhythm, looking at heart rate variability, but essentially saying meditations that are bringing you back into your heart center to create a connection to that true self, to able to operate from that. So doing morning meditations that are more heart centered, that connect to the true self, to that quality of your essence, to operate from that experience more as time goes. So it's actually globally a big concept now, this heart coherence. Something that I think yogic philosophy has been talking about, this heart chakra opening and um, all of those different aspects from a very long time. But that's, I think, how psychology really, I would say, clients have experienced or talked about it, or my own experience around it has been, and which is what led soul and science to begin, which is like, oh my God, like I'm not this trauma, I'm this being, the spiritual being in the human experience, and I can tap into that experience of of this light, of this consciousness. And you almost see many times that your vision becomes clearer.
Mm,
Suddenly you're looking at something and the vision becomes clearer, your focus becomes sharpened. Suddenly there is a realization that, oh, this is what I've been doing, or this is what I need to do. There's that level of clarity that comes in, like absolute clarity in that moment. And that the more we sit with it, the more it happens through the day. And so now when I know when I'm in that, and then suddenly my thing opens up and I can see clearly, and then it's like, oh, okay, that's what I need to do. Um, and so I think for the few minutes that we have, I was wondering if you could talk about not maybe not the thing, but how one can nourish that more, because I think that's something that would really help us, even at moving backward, right? Even if you're sitting, most people are going to sit in your heart center and everything else begins to automatically start looking different. So it depends on which way you join. You can even join the journey at the heart center and start expanding and kind of using that as a starting point, is what I'm reading these days. It doesn't have to be the journey of victim to victor. People are saying heart coherence could be a starting point. So just from the yogic perspective, what would be some of the ways that one can nourish that connection to the true self?
Before I go into that, let me just say something about what you were saying. It definitely the term, I like that term, heart coherence, because it means that you are coherent to what's happening in your heart. And when we are emotional, in distress, we are not coherent with the heart. We are following whatever is happening from the thoughts or the emotions, this unholy alliance. The heart is not part of this unholy alliance, so the heart is being suppressed. So the heart coherence means that we're gonna listen to what's happening in the heart and respond accordingly. Um, okay, so I like that term. You were also mentioning this clarity and this light, and maybe it would be good to mention another thing very interesting, very important. When we hear about yoga, sometimes we may hear the terms enlightenment and liberation, and it may feel like, okay, so that's the very end of the journey. We're talking about enlightenment and liberation, like something really far away and only a few can reach. And in a way, it's true that only a few are liberated in this planet. That maybe you can count them with the fingers in one hand at the moment, in this very instant in the planet. But at the same time, well, first of all, what does liberation mean? It's freedom. You were talking about freedom. It's freedom from karma. So you're not attached to karma anymore, and then you are free to not to have to go through the cycle of reincarnation. So that's the technical understanding of what we call this freedom. And enlightenment means somebody who is in the light and who is the light, right? They are totally in tune with that light. Okay, so that's great in terms of final objective of yoga. However, we go through stages, and we could say that on any aspect of your life, you can go through the processing of that. I'm thinking now of the therapy healing, like going towards that enlightenment and that freedom. Doesn't have to be the ultimate freedom and the ultimate enlightenment, if you wish, but just reaching the light, which means, light is about seeing things clearly, like you were saying. So you've been stuck, or we've been stuck in, let's say, 20 years with this trauma, and now suddenly I can see it with different eyes. I can see it with a different light, and that darkness starts to dispel. Because that's the thing about light. No matter how dark is the room, as soon as you put a little tiny candle, light appears, right? The smallest candle, light appears. So even if you feel that there is a very, very dark area within yourself, as soon as you start bringing a little bit of consciousness, a little bit of light, then it starts to transform and change. And those things which were scary, like going into a dark room that you've never been before. Oh, this is scary. What's this? Is a monster? No, it's just a chair. Okay, it's a chair. Okay, let me move the chair away. So as soon as you put a tiny candle, you identify it's not a monster, it's just a chair, and you can move things around.
Just add in there that the word consciousness, enlightenment, light, in a daily perspective, would just be to bring awareness to
Correct. Yeah.
conscious of just bringing awareness. I mean, these
Yeah.
are big words we're using, but what we're really saying is becoming, just bringing awareness to what is. That's
Exactly.
it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it could be realizing that whatever you have gone through is a karma that has been in your family. Your mom went through it, your grandmother went through it, and you've gone through it now, and you realize, wow, and you see it, and you see there is this light. There is a light, and the light purifies as well because it dispels the darkness, it dispels the ignorance, and so just through being in that awareness, it starts to transform it. And it could be enough. Just bringing that awareness could be enough to heal it, actually. You may not even need to have to go through a whole strong process. It could be just enough. And that's the light, is like the little enlightenment. And then
Mhm.
as you are clearing up the trauma, that's a little liberation. So we go through the, it's like stage one of enlightenment and liberation. And as you go into yourself, and we will talk more about how to nourish yourself, but let's say as you nourish this self and your consciousness expands, your light also expands, and therefore
Mhm.
you see a bit more. And what happens is that as you see a bit more, you also see some issues that you had to deal with that you didn't think about before, and things that you thought were resolved, and now they are illumined, and you realize actually I still have to do something on that. So, okay, now I see something, I work on that, and I work a little bit, and then another light bulb opens, right? And a little bit of more enlightenment, a little bit more karma liberated. So stage two of liberation, your light opens up a little bit more conscious, and now you see another thing that you have to deal with, right? So it's a
Yeah.
little bit like that. That's why when you start yoga, it's a beautiful thing. And then when you have been doing yoga for some months or some years, it can be tough because you realize
Mm.
there's issues in you. You have to, coming back to the other day, take responsibility for, right? To mature.
Yeah.
So it's a process that goes on like this. Do you have anything about this or?
Yeah, so in fact, I was reading about this interestingly just recently, and it's called there's Yogananda Paramhamsa, I think, and there is another yogi, his teacher, and he
Silvestesvar.
yes, he talks about the five hearts and stages of how you go from the first heart, which is filled with all this darkness, and how each of these heart stages, as you start doing the work around yoga and kriya yoga and clearing it out, that your heart becomes a different kind of a heart. So from the heart, like the darkened heart, so to say, he talks about how you go towards living more heart coherent, and there are like five levels to that, and or five stages to that. And it's a very interesting sort of thing to what you said here, that um, he says that we're in the when we're in the dark heart, we can only grasp ideas of the physical world, and we run into trouble, and we can only see what is true from our physical eyes. And then as we like we talked about the seeing of the heart begins to change. You're going to see more clearly from the heart. We go away from the head and into the heart, and then we're seeing very differently. We're seeing things as they are, and taking responsibility for the interpretations and therefore the actions and everything. And he talks about it really from about that shift, and how kriya yoga actually can allow you to go from that darkened heart to a more coherent heart.
Hmm.
So I just thought that that's really interesting. I just read about it, recently, so I thought I would share
Yeah,
that.
I love Yogananda. He's so loving. You read the book and it just opens your heart straight away. Just reading the autobiography is a good way to open the heart. And
Yeah.
yes, I'm glad that you mentioned love as well, because when I was talking about the peace and the joy is love to a certain
Mm.
degree, like and maximize the state of love. And compassion contains love as well. So love is definitely a part of a big ingredient in the whole process, and you feel it that is awakening.
Absolutely, because I think the key here when I was reading this book and all this thing is that when we go through trauma in our early childhood, the first thing that we do when we feel pain is we shut down our heart,
Mm, yes,
because I don't want to feel pain.
right.
And that's really the nature of how we're living. We live more in the mind because we're shut off from our heart. We don't allow ourselves to feel. And today, emotional numbing, addictions, all of that is running away from this feeling of pain, because when we were seeking love, we possibly got a sense of rejection, or we perceived abandonment and something, and then we said, oh my god, I'm not lovable, right? I came
Yes.
to a conclusion, and so I shut my heart out. And then when you shut your heart out, where are you operating from?
Well, from fear, right?
And the opposite of love is not necessarily hate, it's fear,
Yeah, that's
actually.
right. That's right.
I
So
see creation, funnily enough, beyond liberation from karma, I think it's fear.
yeah.
and you
And
come
the
back.
thing is, the way you are describing it, right? Because we just shut down our heart from what's happening, and then there is two fears coming up. One, I'm afraid of whatever is coming to me because it can harm me, but I'm also
Yeah,
afraid of opening my heart because then I feel all the pain stored.
yeah.
So there is this double fear, and we are caught up in that. That's how we put all this armor. Yeah.
Exactly. And that is and that I feel that is the nature of life, that we are all suffering because of all of these armors,
Mhm.
because of the initial experience of, and it may not, like you said, if it's karma, it may not be from this life, it could be from a previous life that we are carrying forth, and but the truth is that I'm disconnected from my heart that says I am love.
There we go. You were asking before, what can we do to get more in contact with the self? Then we reach that spot, right? If we identify what is pulling us away from it as fear, then
Mhm.
obviously what's going to get us closer is through love.
Yeah.
But let's. It's not
Yeah,
like sorry.
I said easier said than done, and it's not romantic love we are talking about here.
That's right. That's also right. It's not romantic love. It's also not hippie happy, wishy washy kind of superficial idealization of the world and seeing everything through a pink lens. It's a very real love, and it's a tough love sometimes. So, okay, what can we do to nourish that real self and to be more in contact with it? I will say a few things. One is, what do you really love to do for yourself, and to declare your love to yourself, and to be more self-loving. What kind of things do you actually enjoy doing for yourself, and how can you tell yourself that you care about yourself? And it can be, going for a massage, or taking some time off to go for a stroll in the woods, or taking care of your garden, right? And you feel in love with the flowers. There's a lot of love, in the beauty of the flower. So doing things that you love, as long as they are dharmic, right? Not karmic, but if it's something aligned with yourself, it, that's going to be nourishing the love and the feeling that you love yourself. Because if we remember, when we are going through the trauma experience, what happens is our self-esteem goes down. So we need to feel that we care about yourselves. We care about ourselves. So how do we tell ourselves that we love ourselves? Maybe it's a nice how do you call that, bubble bath with bubbles,
Mhm.
on Sunday with some candles, or who knows. You have to tell yourself that you love yourself. So that's one lovely thing that you can do. Two, I'm gonna give three things, and maybe there's more. Two is two is tough love. Tough love is the other side, is the one that, as we are bringing more light into our awareness and we are expanding and seeing those corners of ourselves that we haven't dealt with, tough love is to say, you know what, Ardaas, you still have to work on that, and to recognize it and put the effort. And so I'm not saying everything is a trauma, because not everything is a trauma, but there is issues to deal with, okay? Let's not call them even traumas, because we don't even want to go into the victim mentality again. We got out of it, right? It took courage, core, heart. Yeah, it took courage to get out of it, to face the fear. All right, now as I awaken my consciousness, I notice another issue. Let's not even call it a trauma. Let's just call it an issue. Well, tough love. Let's go and work, right? And sometimes we have to be very serious to ourselves, the way we talk to ourselves, or take responsibility for our words, emotions. And that's going to be hard. It takes some energy, it takes a commitment, it takes discipline. So, on one side, you know what we love for ourselves, but on the other side is to be disciplined as well, because we all love to stay in bed maybe an hour more, but is that the best for yourself? Sometimes maybe it is. Maybe one day you need it, and it's a joy to give that gift to yourself. But another day you say, you know what, I need to get up and stretch my body because I'm developing some issues, I have some injury, my body is telling me if you don't take care of it, you're going to suffer later. So you have to do the discipline and the hard work. That's tough love. It's also another form of love. And then the other thing I would like to mention is, go and do something for others. right? Show your love through compassion for others and do some service. Offer your time, offer your energy or your whatever, do something for others, not just for yourself. And that should what we call seva, selfless service, or karma yoga, we call it as well, no, in yoga. And that's a way to stop looking so much at your own story. Stop looking so much at your own navel as well. And just
Yeah.
offer whatever you have. And what we say in yoga is that through service, you also find love, the supreme love, the prem, what we call, not piare, which is a more like terrestrial love or material love, the hippie happy kind of wishy-washy, and also the romantic love. It's something more divine. So you develop that through this service. So we know love is part of the equation, but yeah, towards ourselves and also towards the others.
Thank you so much for that, Ardashji, because I think there's nothing um, more true than oneself and others, serving oneself and others. And I like how being from Portugal, you know the difference between pyar and prem. I
Yes.
really like that.
Yes.
And thank you for bringing us back to that, to the difference between what we are considered and probably chasing this kind of pyar all the time, without really looking at it as a fundamental devotion to operate from the heart center, which is prem, which is a supreme experience when you're serving from others from a space of truth. And even when we're coming back before we close today's finale, which I think is a great way to remind people to love themselves and others more, and to stay grounded and truthful in love. The love we're talking here is not either hedonistic or egoistic. It's a genuine sense of reverence for living from the heart with humility and grace, and there is the purity and an innocence to that. And that when we do it from the heart center, we would know the difference. You know, it's just experiencing that difference, and then showing up in the world in a more authentic, in a more authentic, real, experiential way. And so, with
Can I
that,
can I al- can I also
yes,
say it also extends this sentence I was saying before, that it's fine to whatever happens, it's fine. It also extends then towards the inside, and you say, I am fine. And it's not like a positivity kind of, affirmation that you may say, "Oh, I'm fine," when actually you are not. But it's actually to realize that whatever is within you, you are fine. It's fine. What you did your best. You are doing your best. So you can also. It's a way to display the love for yourself. To say, "I'm fine." Also in
yeah,
that direction.
yeah. So thank you, Adashi, and thank you everyone for being part of this journey of season two, from victim to victor, living from our true self, from the victim mentality to living to our true self that is seeped in compassion, freedom, abundance, and living more heart centered. So I thank Ardashi for being with us on this journey, as always, sharing with us the tips and the ways in which we can live more heart centered from the beginning up until now. Stay tuned for season three, which will be coming up soon. Over to you, Ardashi, thanking everyone for being with us, and we hope and we wish you a victim to victor journey.
Thank you, Nyana. Thank you again, everyone, for having gone through this journey with us and for doing it for yourself, which is just listening to this and just considering doing these exercises is a way to show your love to yourself. So that's lovely. And many blessings to you, wherever you are, listening to these voices. And may you be able to apply this to your life and get a lot of light within yourself, dispel the darkness, and share the light and the life with others, and the love with others. Many blessings. Take care.
Thank you.